views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Last year, a record number of hurricanes swept across the Caribbean. When one of the strongest hurricanes on record, Hurricane Irma, made landfall, it caused massive destruction across U.S. territories, including the U.S. Virgin Islands. And although we don't hear much anymore, a year later, the U.S. Virgin Islands is still slowly recovering and rebuilding. Stay with us on this edition of Perspectives and hear firsthand reports on the progress and the efforts of the New York delegation, who recently paid a trip with a visit and helping to clean up. That's coming up next here on Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. Of course, we're thankful that you're watching and joining with us here on BronxNet's Channel 67. Now, listen, you can also check us out on social media. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, also Instagram. Find out about some past episodes. Get to share your perspective. Let us know what you think, and maybe your perspective just might make it here to air. But it's really about sharing that perspective, because in this day and time, perspective really matters. All you have to do is just look around the world and you can tell how much difference a perspective can make. And keeping perspective at the front focus, I want to talk about several representatives from the New York City Council and also some labor union leaders. They recently wrapped up their annual Black, Latino, and Asian Legislative Labor Retreat in St. Thomas. Now, this following a week of humanitarian work in some of the communities has really been hardest hit the most. And I really want to talk about the Virgin Islands today, and so we get to talk a little bit about this and bring to light a major issue that's affecting our brothers and sisters out there. And joining me now is the council member of the 12th District of the Bronx, Mr. Andy King, who was out there front and center. And Andy, good to have you again.
It's good to be here, brother.
I'll shake your head. Give me a weak one.
I get you.
All right. It's all right, man. It's all good. I'm trying to get better by the day. But talk to us. When we talk about the Virgin Islands, obviously you guys went. Great humanitarian effort that was done there. But for people who don't know about the Virgin Islands, the situation that still exists there, walk us through it.
Well, I'll start back 4 years ago when I was the chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus of the City Council. I started a retreat in the goal of us to build a better relationship with our brothers and sisters in government in the U.S. Virgin Islands. For the last 3 years, we've been going out there having meetings, meeting with the governor, sitting with the Senate, touring the hospital systems, touring the higher education system, just getting a feel of how we can build a better relationship and actually, some synergy with our residents here, and because our constituents, St. Thomians and U.S. Virgin Islands as well. So out of that, we've built that good relationship, and we continue to grow on it. Weather conditions turned this year's retreat more into a humanitarian effort. People say, are we still going to go? We're still going to try to figure it out. At the end of the day, our brothers and sisters still needed help. So this year was all about going and building those relationships and strengthening them, but hitting the ground, picking up shovels, picking up brooms, picking up hammers, getting a screwdriver, doing all that we can do to improve a life, how small or big. And as we toured the island, we got to see some of the devastations that the television cameras don't report. I am not mad at any other island that's been hurt by the storms. Everyone has a responsibility as humanitarians to help islands. But we generally know that for the last year, the United States Virgin Islands has not received the attention that's really due to it. A lot of other islands have garnered a lot of the attention. There's been advocacy from the Bronx and throughout for other islands, and we keep forgetting the Virgin Islands bears our name, United States. So the administration in Washington, as well as local leaders here in the city of New York, I ask us all to put that effort into our constituencies or in our neighborhoods that we represent every day, going back to the Virgin Islands, the United States Virgin Islands. So, we were there. We were there for 10 days. The retreat lasted for about 4 or 5 days. And we hit the ground running. After we sat down and met with the Commissioner of Education for the United States Virgin Islands, she walked us through, the reality of the children on the island. Even though they were able to try to put some consistency of trying to get the education system back up and play, you have buildings that were just shut down. Couldn't be used, just flood damage, just damage, roofs torn out, furniture destroyed, food destroyed because no electricity, so all the food they had, 365 tons of food was just damaged. You couldn't do anything with it. So our children are in a new reality right now that in the Virgin Islands of how do you get educated, not having supplies, not having books, teachers not having things in the classroom, the things that you take for granted, a pen and a pencil and an eraser, they're struggling to try to get. So
I'm gonna tell them up there to throw the pictures on right now. We'll talk a little bit about it because I want people, as you're talking about this, I want people to really have an opportunity to take a look, see, and see where we are in terms of Virgin Islands. Because as you said, once the cameras leave, nobody knows really what goes on except for the people that live there and the people that visit there.
Correct.
So, when you talk about the massive devastation, we're talking about Puerto Rico today, but give us a comparison between Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I know you've been close to both. When you talk about damage, how do you rate that?
I rate the damage of Puerto Rico, if we can rate it as a scale of 1 to 10, Puerto Rico, I would say was a 9-10 hit. When you talk about the United States Virgin Islands, who got hit twice as well, their damage is around 8-9. So they're similar in the same categories of how they. But Puerto Rico, the camera stayed in Puerto Rico. Our delegation here, they focused on Puerto Rico. Not mad at that, but at the end of the day, United States Virgin Islands is still part of the United States. So we still have a responsibility. I did all I could do to help Puerto Rico, but I want to also make sure our brothers in the United States Virgin Islands are getting the same respect, the same attention, because whether you take care of the seashore where the government, is there and they're trying to fix it up. What about our brothers and sisters who are up in the mountains in those hills that could never get close to, that was one of the greatest cries that we got, that Governor Mapp kind of deserted the people in the hills. He always talked about how everything was okay, but it was okay for the people down by the shoreline and the businesses, and even some of the businesses, after they collected their money, they bounced out of St. Thomas. So you got an economic condition right now that's struggling, and relying on cruise ships to help them build their economy back up again. But a lot of businesses, about 40% of the businesses left the island. So St. Thomas is struggling. The infrastructure is struggling. As we toured, went up some of the streets. We were there, for the time we were there, the day before we left, they put up street lights. The lights were just coming back on, the traffic lights. They had been out. I mean, the whole mechanism was gone. And by the time we were leaving, they were putting up, but this is a year in.
Right.
This is a year in. So you imagine what people are going through. They've told me there have been a lot of car accidents. At times they got the power restored. Times we go, the day before I left, I was driving and the whole island just went out. Power just went out, boom. So it's a reality that's happening there, that here we live in a comfort zone, and we take for granted the things such as having electricity, or taking for granted that you can go in it and that the roof is still on your house. It's a struggle. Not even to mention what are the quality foods I can eat today, because so much stuff has gotten damaged. So, but people have been doing stuff for the Virgin Islands. They've been sending stuff. They are far away from any sense of normalcy, whether it's the school system, the hospital system is just currently getting themselves back together and running right. Government is operating as efficiently as they can. And then when you talk about the businesses leaving. So we did what we could do while we were there. We pictures of one of their federal housing places. Walls is blown out. One of the stories that they talked about is, the sister that got swept out of her apartment. The storm hit. And we went to that building where you'll see in the pictures that she was sitting in, and it just swept her out, and they found her body like 100 yards away from, and the walls of her apartment just blown out, as well as many of the walls and buildings. Interesting enough, we went inside it, because it's open.
We see it right here.
Yeah, we went inside it, and there was on the top floor there was a Bible just open there, left, kind of frazzled. But I'm like, but that complex right there, due to poor construction, which unfortunately a lot of the older buildings on the island withstood. It's the new construction that whether it's stucco or anything else, that is falling apart. Here we were the school system, we were building tables for the kids, for they can go out for recess and lunchtime and have places to sit down and eat food. So we spent a couple of hours at a place called Our Brothers Workshop. And, everyone had their gloves and nails and their hammers and drilled and built. And trust me, that wood ain't hell ain't either. So we got to work out that day.
Yeah, put the full work in. We'll be back with more with Councilmember Andy King talking about the work and the revitalization that's going on in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Help still needed, and we'll tell you how you can play a part in just a few.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
Back here on Perspectives, thank you for watching. Our guest, Councilmember Andy King of the 12th District, talking about the work that's going on in the Virgin Islands, who has been hampered by Hurricane Irma. And to date, all those in the Virgin Islands are still trying to recover. Massive revitalization effort is underway, and to really get them back on stable ground. Talking about stable ground, how long do they anticipate before things are back to normal?
Well, one of the guidelines, I don't want to say guidelines, one of the goals for some of their big resorts like the Marriott and the Ritz, who were hit heavy, they're not opening them back to 2019. So you're talking about over a 2-year period that they've been shut down. Building new grids, President Clinton was out there, and we were out there announcing that they were going to be offering new solar panels in order for them to draw energy from elsewhere, because electricity costs a lot on the island. There's a lot of people in foreclosure just because they can't afford the electricity, and with the storm, they're getting a reprieve, but that's about to end as well. So they're still looking at a good 2 years of getting things solid, and that's bearing that there aren't any other major storms that hit. So I'm going to be praying for them. We're going to continue to do our part. We're going to continue to go back each and every year to build, help, and do whatever we can do. Actually, when the storm hit, I sent down a 40-foot container with residents up here in the North Bronx and River Bay. We collected goods and pallets of water, diapers, bags. When it first hit back in December. So, we've been constantly staying connected with the Virgin Islands because they are our brothers and sisters.
Yeah. And so I know you also did some work. You had an opportunity to meet a couple people. Let's talk about government first, and then I'll come to the celebrity side later on. But government, you had an opportunity to see how government works out there. When you see how government works, compare it to what we're seeing on this side. I mean, it's still the United States, but definitely governed a little differently.
It's governed a little different. Actually, they're going through their own elections right now. It's their structure's a little different with 15 senators, and they come from all the different islands, the 3 islands that are there, and it's different. It's different because each island votes for their own senators, as opposed to them all in together being part of the territory, and you vote for all of them because they all got to represent the territory. So their election process is a little different, but being able to sit in their chambers and hear the story of President Myron Jackson, who's the president of the Senate out there, along with a couple other senators that joined us when we visit the Legislative House, to tell us a story out the Virgin Islands. Tell us how they came to be who they are today, being sold to the United States over 100. Last year was their 100-year anniversary of being free from Denmark. So we met in the legislative. They told us the story of their rebellion and freedom of the three queens, Queen Mary, and it was Queen Anne and another queen, how they rebelled against the slave owners, that they wanted to be free and they were not going to tolerate the behavior that was being perpetrated upon them from Caucasian rulership. And that's the story of America as well. We talk about slavery. People think that slavery is isolated. It's not isolated. It's across the globe. And in the United States history, it plays a big part in slavery across the globe. So that's just the story of the United States Virgin Islands. So they was in their tunnels, and they got beautiful murals in their legislative building. So it was an honor to see the artwork that was in there, the decor that they've been able to save. God bless the storms didn't rip up the legislative house, because that artwork is not something that you can just readily duplicate. So it was good to learn that story, learn that history of the United States Virgin Islands, but more importantly, sitting there and getting to build better relationship with their Senate.
And not only did you meet politicians, you also had an opportunity to meet basketball players?
Well, Mr. Fundamental himself.
Yes, Mr. Fundamental himself, straight from the U.S. Virgin Islands, none other than soon-to-be NBA Hall of Famer Tim Duncan.
Yeah, the big fundamental. It was an honor and pleasure because, when the storms hit, he donated millions in relief to St. Croix in the United States Virgin Islands to help them, distributing food and so forth. So they have this annual game for 4 years, the British Virgin Islands and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and so St. Croix and playing St. Thomas. What was always happening is that they would always get wiped out. So Duncan and them came back, put together an all-star team, and it was a very good game. So for all who attended the game, it was a full house on the University of Virgin Islands. The game was being held. But we honored him. The Senate honored him. We were grateful to be a part of that and thanked him for his humanitarian effort. So we awarded him that night at the game in front of, and that was pretty much, they said, it was one of the first times he's actually been back on island to play basketball. So of course, everyone and their cousin and their mama, everybody was in the gym for that night. It was a special night on the island.
Right. And when you talk about him, obviously somebody who's from the area.
Yes.
What was this conversation like about the impact, and what did you hear from him?
Well, he was just grateful and thankful to be in a position to serve and help. So many folks, when they get to a certain point in life, they forget where they came from. They forget, what humanity is all about. They forget about the people who wiped their noses when they couldn't figure out. Now they've arrived, and they kind of lose track of who they are. Tim is always that humble, gentle giant, and he's always a person that they can always count on. So, and they knew that growing up. Just the world didn't know him. They only knew if he was there. The bank was always open when he was on the court.
Right.
He had the best bank shot in the world, man.
He had the best bank shot out of anybody.
Yeah.
Particularly for
a 7-footer.
A 7-footer.
Yeah.
And a big man. So people who want to assist right now with the Virgin Islands, what kind of relief efforts? What's available for people to do? What's most needed now?
Well, right here, there's something called the Virgin Islands Yankees Association, right here in the borough of the Bronx, who I've been working with to collect supplies, and they send stuff over. Their freshwater fund, they send it over to the Virgin Islands. So if anybody's interested in sending anything, they can always call my office, and we'll connect them with the Virgin Islands Freshwater Fund Yankees Club, so we can get whatever they want to send over. Right now, they're still in need of manpower. Manpower is the biggest thing that they can get help with. Go and help them build, help them clean debris. And if you have a talent for as electrician, they're always looking for people to come do electrician and builders. That's what they really need. So I would ask anybody, if you're vacationing, or if if your life is really comfortable, and a lot of our lives are really comfortable, when you go into a scenario which they're dealing with, you realize what's really important in life.
Right.
And then you ignore some of the simple things that you think that stress you out because you're living in drama.
Right.
You want to live in drama, sit there thinking about how you feed your children for like 3 months when every food is rotten, or you have no roof and the rain is still coming in, or it's so hot during the day you don't know what to do, and or the water is damaged around you, and you can't, or that water you can't even get in the water because there's so much bacteria. That's real stuff that these people had to deal with each and every day. And while they're growing and getting through it, I give credit to my brothers and sisters in the United States Virgin Islands for their resiliency, because they don't get a lot of handouts, but they survive. God got them.
Councilmember Andy King talking about the U.S. Virgin Islands, the relief effort following Hurricane Irma. Stay with us. We got more show. Be back in a few.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Back here on Perspectives, Daren Jaime here with you, and talk a little bit with Councilmember Andy King, talking about the relief efforts going on in the Virgin Islands. And I know the delegation went out, and you guys did a great job of spreading humanitarian work, but not just spreading humanitarian work, but also raising awareness. Do you think more people now know about the Virgin Islands, or is it still forgotten?
We want to bring more attention to it, and we're going to continue. I know I will. My colleagues are. We're going to look to bring them over here in the upcoming months to talk about the scenario, what's going on, to allow them to tell their story as well. So, a number of us from government who went down there, my colleagues from this council, Councilmember Miller, who's the chair of the Black and Latino Asian Caucus right now, Councilwoman Gibson, Assemblymember Walter Mosley, who was down there. We made a good impact on trying to get messaging out, and we're going to continue to get that messaging out, working with the Virgin Islands families that are here, and doing everywhere we can get and come and having, whether it's press conferences or whether it's news articles or just keeping the light shining on the United States Virgin Islands. Again, they are our brothers, they are our sisters, and it's almost like if you're the United States, how do you take care of the kid across the street but don't take care of the kid that's in your house? They are still the United States Virgin Islands.
Right. Yeah, a lot could be said there, but that's a whole other show.
Yeah, true that.
But let's talk about your district before we get out of here. What's going on? What's happening? What's coming up?
Well, we got some good stuff. The month of September is Childhood Obesity Awareness Month, so which we know childhood obesity is not a good thing. So I'm partnering up again with the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, along with a host of sports activists as well as entertainers, athletes, and we're going to be kicking off what we're going to be calling the 60-gallon challenge. So that's what, drinking a gallon of water every day. So we're doing a press conference this Friday, the back-to-school rally, which about 1,500 kids on the Evangeline Childs High School. All the kids are going to kick in. We're going to do exercise. They're going to teach them about healthy eating. And I say that to everybody, we got to eat differently. Right. When I was out in the Virgin Islands, as much as I did not eat, but the food was still different. But we overeat here in America. When your body will tell you, your car will tell you can't put any more gas in it. But you won't keep pumping. But us, when we full, right, we eat till we stuff. So your body tells you when you need to stop. So whether you eat too much sweets or not enough sugar, or you eat too much sugar, or you're not putting enough protein in your body, So you got to do all these things, but that means we all got to think differently about food and how we interact and exercise. So it's going to be a fun day, starting off the school year for our kids to be ready. We call it out of the pool, back to school rally, energize, motivate, stimulate, and get ready to educate.
And a lot of education going on. Listen, I want you to stay connected to us here on Perspectives. Councilmember Andy Kay, of course, giving us a little bit of what's going on in his district. When you talk about the city, obviously, still a lot of concerns. Let me get your quick take on this. The housing crisis. People still in this borough feel like they're being gentrified. It's very much a reality. A lot of overdevelopment going on. People are wondering about affordable housing. Before we get out of here, give us your take on how we see the housing crisis right now.
Well, the housing crisis goes this way. We got to realize that rentership is part of affordable housing period, and home ownership. We got to make both accessible to everybody. There's no reason why a city worker should be living in a shelter. That means you got to make it accessible. That means every developer that you get a plan for can't always walk away with $5 million, $10 million, $12 million. Sometimes you got to just make $1 million off the deal and do the right thing for the people of New York. And if you can't do that, then you can't build here. We have a lot of bad actors who are still in the game because they shift the name of who they are, and government here in the city still works with them. So until we change government head to recognize that, then you can actually put real money, real housing, and then for the people who live there, don't get gentrified. I can't be in a neighborhood for 25 years and it starts falling apart. Then when you start investing, you want to invest for the new bodies you want to bring in. Where you put in me now that I've been here all this time, you want to dump me someplace else? And I say this, you know, I'll just end with this. When you're talking about building housing for people in the city of New York, you got to make sure that you are fair. NYCHA is one of those positions that we've given the federal government a pass. Federal government created that problem by pulling out funding, and we should be tapping in. There's no way the city will ever get $26 billion to fix NYCHA. That means you got to give it back to the federal government, as opposed to the federal government talking about building space stations and space wars and space police. I mean, like, seriously, take care of the people on Earth first before you try to do it in what's that movie, Asylum, Elysium, where everyone, you know, the rich people went up into space and they left us down here for fall apart on Earth.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I mean, and if people can't, if we don't have the right leadership, you got to change the leadership. Right. You know, the people got to think differently. So if the people up there are still trying to figure out how they get paid, then you got to remove the people trying to get paid and get people in who want to get the right things done.
All right. Councilmember Andy King, thank you so much for sharing, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Take the left hand today.
Got it. You go.
All right. Listen, that about wraps it up for us here on Perspectives. Listen, thank you for watching. For all of us here on the Center Perspectives, stay tuned. Share your perspective with somebody else. You never know. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life. Daren Jaime said, take care. God bless.
What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?